And even though we like math on this show, we are not going to make you figure out how to measure liquid.
These are the gas prices this year. This is what the gas prices will be.
And gas has gone up 7 cents since this morning.
He puts a new thing on the sign every time we pull in.
Wild card, bitches! Yeah!
We're going to solve the gas crisis.
Oh, good.
Welcome to the Night Pod Cometh, a show covering the legendary FXX show. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I am Jamie G, master of future contracts, not expert in bird law. I'm here with my co-host, Magnum Mills, and we're going to see if anybody can solve the gas crisis.
Dude, I swear, every time I drive past the place, man, they add another fucking number to the price. Until it gets to $4.99 at least, and then they're just holding, they're waiting for the levy to break, and then it'll be when is gas $6 a gallon. And good news for you, this is free, $0 per gallon. We don't even have to measure it while Charlie, pours it through the funnel or whatever. Thank you for checking out the Night Pod Cometh. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. You can find our YouTube channel at joeblowfootballshow.com. You can find us on social media at Night Pod Cometh. And if you have any feedback, we'd love to hear it. Please send it to nightpodcometh@gmail.com.
Thank you for checking out the Night Pod Cometh. Please be aware, though, that this is a full-on spoiler show. All episodes, interviews, news reports, podcasts, they're all fair game here. This is your first and final spoiler warning.
If it's ever happened on Sunny, we can talk about it. So now it's time to do this thing. This is episode 2 of season 4. The Gang Solves the Gas Crisis. Originally aired September 18th, 2008. This episode was directed by Matt Shankman, who has directed 43 episodes of Sunny, the most recent being Dennis's Double Life back in season 12. The episode was written by Charlie Day, Sung Jin Lee, and Patrick Walsh. The notable guest stars here are Zachary Knighton as Random Guy. You might know him as Dave from Happy Endings, and Eileen Fogarty as female bank clerk. You might recognize her as Mrs. Nguyen from Better Call Saul. The short plot synopsis is, while Mac, Dennis, and Charlie use their classic setup to sell gallons of gasoline door to door, Frank subjects Dee to a series of torture and mind games when he suspects that Dee is trying to kill him, while the two plot to steal their inheritance from Bruce Mathis.
And before we get into this phenomenal episode, Mills, hit us with any notable callbacks, references, trivia, just general whatnot.
First off here, Matt gives us some other examples of the brains, looks, and wild card dynamic. He gives us the A-Team, Scooby-Doo, and the Ghostbusters. I have a couple more for you here myself. I'm going to go with the Sopranos, with Tony as the brains, Silvio is the looks, Paulie is the wild card. I'm going to go with the cast of Caddyshack. Rodney Dangerfield is the brains. Chevy Chase is the looks. Bill Murray is the wild card. I'm going to go with Who's the Boss. Angela is the brains. Tony is the looks. Monica is the wild card. And then finally, the most obvious example of brains, looks, wild card I've ever seen. That's Beverly Hills Cop. You got Taggart as the brains. You got Billy Rosewood as the looks. And Axel Foley as the wild card. Don't know how you beat that. And also, we did get, obviously, the Ghostbusters reference there. We closed out the episode with Ray Parker's Ghostbusters theme. And if you didn't know, now you know, Danny DeVito actually had a small cameo in the music video for that. And Maureen Ponderosa is played by Catherine Reitman. She's the daughter of Ghostbusters director Ivan Reitman. And we do see Random Guy again, shows up in The Gang Squashes Their Beefs, the season 9 finale. We get another take on this episode in season 8's The Gang Recycles Their Trash. This is the first appearance of Charlie's Texan character. We do get him again in Frank's Pretty Woman. We have seen Dennis's drawings before. They kind of remind us of his sketches from the Aluminum Monster versus Fatty Magoo.
Okay, Dennis, I'm confused.
What's that?
These are just pictures of women with giant breasts.
Yeah.
And despite being name dropped multiple times, Bruce Mathis never actually appears in this episode.
I love the full circle of Ghostbusters here. I mean, da-na-na-na-na. This was very cool. Thank you for that. That means it's time to see if the gang can solve the gas crisis. Judging by how much it cost me to fill up my tank yesterday, I don't think they can come up with a long-term solution.
I
think it's more complex than that.
It may be more complex, especially because it seems like wildcard bitches seems to be the dominant economic strategy right now. We open the episode 10:30 a.m. on a Monday. Mac and Dennis are asking Charlie why he's running the bar on a gas generator, as that's more expensive than electricity. The three argue over their roles before Mac declares that in his role as the brains, he's decided that they're going to solve the gas crisis.
The dialogue here is fantastic. At one point, you start to get Mac with the
I came up with a plan.
Lay it on us, bud.
It involves pulling up our bootstraps, oiling up a couple of asses, and doing a little plowing of our own.
Mac gay sex. I mean, just classic Mac here, pre-gay Mac, before Mac comes out of the closet, if you will, and funny stuff here. And I got to tell you, Magnum Mills, at the beginning of this, I kind of thought Dennis was the brains. I always considered, Mac the muscle a little bit. So,
I mean, he does do the ocular pat down, so that has, he's the
run
sheriff
security.
If someone is called the sheriff of Patties, you would think that maybe they would be the muscle, but again, it's all about Mac has that that dysmorphia, so he doesn't know how to see himself. And you are right, that is funny because he gives a great, setup with being oiled and plowing in the ass and everything. When he's like, oh yeah, Mac's like, oh yeah, no, it's not gay sex, but we're gonna solve the gas price. Charlie's like, oh yeah, sure, great, all right, awesome, okay. Just like, yeah, like, okay, solve the gas crisis. Like, it's another Monday. We got it. We're going to solve the gas crisis. We're good with that. And obviously here we got the, the lines about them doing their roles with the brains, the looks and the whatnot, and the Scooby-Doo 18 line we already talked about. So solid, cold open here. Any other thoughts on this other than, dude, they were running that generator in the bar, not even in the basement, right? Like, aren't there some fumes probably going on there? And shout out to the dudes, you see them behind the guys that are just sitting at the bar drinking in a bar with no electricity at 10:30 in the morning on a Monday. Those are there's probably like 5 guys that basically give Patty's 80% of the revenue, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Not including the Patty's bucks. They're doing their own economy.
Those dudes just sign their checks over. They come in on payday. They don't get direct deposit or nothing. They just sign their checks right over to Patty's.
How great of a little subtle, hilarious thing though is that they open it up with, we always get a time in a day, right? They open it up at 10:30 on a Monday, and I love that we get, the guys drinking in the background at 10:30, not on a Friday, not on a Saturday, on a Monday.
Yeah, we get a little bit less of that these days because we don't get quite as many openings in the bar, I think. There always used to be a couple. I remember a few years ago, one of the regular guys who used to do it passed away. You always like that, right? That the idea that they still can make a living at this because there are still some guys that will just go to the closest bar to drink no matter what.
Neighborhood pub. After the opening credits, we're still at Patty's, our favorite bar, where Mac lays out their plan. They're going to get a loan and use it to buy a bunch of gas. They'll store it for a few months and then sell it for a profit. Dennis, well, he's created a graph of gas prices featuring large, beautiful, robust, breasted women in case they need a backup plan at the bank.
Gentlemen, we tend to give loans to businesses, not...
She's not getting it. Get the graph.
Oh, yeah, the graph.
We have a graph.
Yeah.
I love this so much. Dude, how good is his graph? His graph's pretty good.
I like how it's basically the only thing he does like color in is the, the breast and the whatnot, like where you wear like a sports bra for a female. And this is Dennis again. We've seen this in the Luna Monza versus Fatty Magoo. Like, he definitely is a very specific body type when it comes to referring to females. And just shout out, this is so long ago. Like, they've drank Coors Light on the show for a decade. They're drinking Amstel Light here. That just shows you how long ago this was. Wow. And you have to give Charlie credit. Mac tells him,
the problem I'm having with it is that I don't have anything to do.
No, you do have something to do. You're the wild card. You sit there looking crazy and capable of anything.
Yeah.
When Charlie starts trying to make his wild card faces with moving his eyebrows, shout out Charlie Day. I can't move my eyebrows that way, but I think it's hysterical that Mac's like, oh yeah, as the brains, I'm going to need to go in the bathroom with him and supervise him making these faces. Like, I would just say, okay, all right, Mac, that's what the brains would do.
Dude, they're really humming here right at the beginning, and I love you're getting the 3 guys and laying out the plan. That's good. I love when they start hot, and they usually do, which is one reason why I love the show, but they certainly have done it there.
Just to snap back to reality real quick, we hear Mac describe a plan where basically he's going to buy something, hold on to it, and then sell it in the future for a price. That's actually a thing, isn't it, Jamie G?
Magnum Mills, I'm glad you asked. It is now time for As Good as Glow, where I exercise my fiduciary duty to please that booty. And in this case, let me teach you about futures contracts. Mac describes a plan here where they'll buy gas now and then sell it later for a higher price. He basically is describing a futures contract, which is an agreement traded on an organized exchange to buy or sell assets, especially commodities or shares, at a fixed price, but to be delivered and paid for later. Futures contracts are used with many commodities, including precious metals, currencies, oil, grain, and many, many, many others. There's certainly money to be made here. And my main piece of advice is do not store barrels of gasoline in your basement.
And no matter how tired you are, don't leave them in the back of the van either. I know it feels like you've taken them in and out a million times, but don't leave the big giant barrels of gasoline in the back of the van. Not sure how that'll help. And speaking of vans, right after that, Dee and Frank walk into the bar, and Frank had just purchased a van, which he says is definitely not a rape van. It's definitely a rape van. They're fired up because Bruce Masses is giving away their inheritance to a Muslim cultural center in 2 days. Dee admits to planning on killing everyone in order to claim the inheritance, so it's not surprising when Dennis passes on helping Dee and Frank to stop Bruce from donating the money. Pretty sick, right? Like, they really go into it. Like, Dee seems like she had actually planned on killing at least Dennis and Frank, and probably Bruce, I guess.
And it's the subtlety here, because we see in this scene Dennis really hyper focused on her wanting to kill him, and she just brushing off, wants to move on. He's like, it's kind of a big deal here. I can't just move on and pass from that. I mean, you're wanting to kill. I love it. And then we see it later on in the episode coming with Frank, where, man, something hilarious happens. We'll talk about that when we get there, but Frank responds a little bit differently than Dennis does.
Eliminate, right? Because Dennis is usually the guy, right? He's the guy who he wants to keep the skins and everything like that. And when he says,
so when you say eliminate, you mean you were going to kill me?
I don't know. No, yes. Maybe I was going to. Maybe I wasn't. The point is moot now, so can you please help me out here?
So you were planning on killing me?
that's perfect on both their parts, right? Like, Dennis, of course, would be a little bit concerned, but he's not you should probably be more concerned, actually. Indy is like, yeah, dude, that was we already talked about that, man.
Well, and it's so funny. She's like, you're still, she's like, so wait, you were planning? We're still talking about that? He's like, how do you pass on that?
and to Dennis's credit, he ends the exchange in the way only Dennis could when he says, just go away. I'm trying to draw breasts.
Boy, did he ever. I like the gang's plan here. I mean, look, they're basically entrepreneurs. They need some money, so they want to go and take out a loan here. That's
right.
That's
they have
the
not
really
way. Actually thought about how fast gasoline goes bad if it's not actually stored properly, which is a big problem with a lot of zombie shows and stuff like that. And the idea that we saw in Charlie work, they do have to pass inspections. In theory, at some point in that time, someone would go down to that basement and see all these barrels. But in theory, the idea is sound. If you would have somehow had a bunch of gas you bought 8 months ago right now and you could sell it, you'd be in business. I don't know how you would measure it, but you could make money maybe.
You just got to count it as it goes in. That's, don't you worry. Charlie's got a way. Let's move on. Next, we see Mac, Dennis, and Charlie are in a bank, and they're attempting to secure a $300,000 loan to buy gasoline. Unsurprisingly, the female bank representative turns them down. She's also, surprisingly, not swayed by Dennis's graph with the large-breasted woman.
These are gorgeous women with heaving breasts.
Yeah. Why?
To be perfectly honest, we sort of thought we'd be speaking to a man today.
Yeah.
Dennis begins to take his shirt off in an attempt to seduce her, but Charlie, being the wild card, and then Mac follow his lead and also remove their shirts. Needless to say, swing and a miss. They didn't get the loan. So much that I love about this. This is to me, they're firing on all cylinders. And Dennis at the best here. I love they strike out on the main attempt, then they go to the graph, they strike out of that, and then Mac just Dennis and Dennis just unbuttons too He gets up on the desk and it's just so great.
It immediately
dude.
propositions. There's no even like, so what was your name again? We never even find out her name. Like, just say, hey, so you want to go in the back again? You know, then Charlie does his wild card thing. Yeah, dude, it starts right off at the beginning when they're asking. And if you actually look at the guys, Charlie's making his wild card face, Mac is talking, and Dennis is trying to like give it like biggest like cheese smile, like seductive, creepy as fuck. You know, shout out the bank clerk here.
My boss is a woman.
Really? Your boss is a woman? Now, this is a strange bank.
So good all the way around. And you even get the old school Mac kind of like when he fucks up his words a little bit when he's like, is there any way we can talk to your boss? Because I think he would understand more better.
Yeah.
I've always loved when Mac does those little fuck ups or whatever. It makes him kind of seem a little bit innocent still on top of being, you know, Mac.
Well, what's great about it is this is an episode where he's standing on an island claiming he's the brains and he's making those types of mistakes, which is hilarious. The other thing that I love about this is they're in the middle of the lobby of a major bank downtown, very busy, tons of foot traffic, right? So they're in the middle of the lobby taking this meeting, you know, to talk about getting a loan, and they all end up with their shirts off doing this. They each have their own individual like flex thing that they do, and it's so funny, you know, as she is like, which fine, you decide which one of us do you want to bang. And you can tell it bothers Dennis so much here that the guys also, you know, took their shirts off, and he ends up telling them, because he's got to get it off his chest, man. He ends up telling them in a future scene. But hilarious. I love that they were in the lobby, right in the center there, and not in an office somewhere. It really made this even better.
I think Charlie got that one because he was trying to actually do like the bodybuilder poses. I thought that was really great. And to this day, I think maybe it is a rule that you can't pull the wild card when Dennis has his shirt off. I think to this day,
they made it a rule
too. I'm trying to think. Like, I think if Dennis pops the shirt off, even at the water park, like I don't even know if we ever see anyone except maybe D interacting with him when he pops the shirt off, because you know, Dennis popping the shirt off, it is what it is. And at the end of this, like they didn't leave, right? Like she called security on them, I'm pretty sure.
100%.
I don't think they walked out of that one willingly. I'm pretty sure they were, you know, and then immediately as they set foot outside the door, they are blackballed, which means they're gonna have to find a different way to get cash. After that, we see not only did Frank buy a rape van, but he also had the windows tinted on the inside.
I don't want anybody to see in.
We can't see out, Frank.
I might have overdone it a little
You think
bit.
so?
This leads him and Dee to incorrectly believe that they are surveilling Bruce Mathis when they're really surveilling just an innocent random dude. They attempt to follow him in the van, but the gas pedal is stuck. This leads to Dee ramming the random dude's car when she's driving, as well as the car behind them as they make a hasty getaway.
Mills, have you ever had one of those cars where you got to wiggle it? You got to wiggle it to get the gas side to side.
Key in the ignition. That's it, not the gas pedal. Generally, the gas pedal is something, gas and brakes, you want to be.
You don't wiggle.
Highly functional is very crucial there. Think about it. He took a van. Oh, it's not a rape van, and then he tints the windows on the inside. You cannot do anything to make it more rapey, basically.
For sure.
Make it to be impenetrable to see it out of. Shout out Zachary Knighton, who kind of plays the random guy, never get a name for him. Dude, literally, like, all he wants to do is sit in his armchair, which, like a real person, he puts right in front of the TV, not like the back corner of the fucking room. He actually sits where a real person would sit. And he just wants to eat, like, cereal and shit out of his bowl and watch golf and chill the fuck out. Loves his Honda Accord, and everyone's just fucking with him.
I didn't do anything to anybody, man. I love that car.
He really loves that car, and he doesn't understand why everyone's trying to ruin his life. This is great. Really good work. And I love his little apartment. Like, it's just played so well. Like, and he's just so like nonchalant.
He has like four lines and he breaks me with all of them because they're all like the same line. He's just like, why? What are you doing? My God, it's so.
And I love how Dee just kind of accepts the fact that Frank tortured somebody too. Like, you tortured somebody? Oh yeah, big time. She's just like, she's sticking around. Like, it's just.
But it's also early, like he doesn't get to write anything, so it's again feeding back into the idea that any intel you gain under torture like that, you know, good luck.
Denied by legitimate financial institutions, Mac, Dennis, and Charlie resort to stealing Dee's life savings to finance their gas purchase.
I can't believe
believe Dee keeps her life savings in her sock drawer. That's a dumb place to hide it.
They've dispensed almost $1,000 in gas into various barrels before the owner shuts them down.
What are you doing? No trash cans, only car.
How are they going to get all of that gas back to Patty's?
This is one of those scenes that every time I watch it, when that gas station owner comes up on them, because it's right as Dennis is he's like, dude, I can't believe you guys took your shirts off. And then the dude walks up, and then Charlie does his first real wild card thing where he flicks the fucking Zippo lighter right next to the big fucking things of gas, and Mac's like, maybe Charlie shouldn't do that. So it's the first. They're also starting to reevaluate their roles, but dude, this whole thing is just, I mean, it's just so wonderful.
It works so good, and you get Charlie still trying to figure out his wild card, right? Like we saw him like kind of go out on a little bit with the shirt off thing at the bank, and now he's still trying to. And the way when the guy comes over and Max like, gives him the signal to do something, he pulls out the lighter. He's standing over a full garbage size, barrel of gas,
like 50 gallon barrel.
Yeah, he's lighting the lighter.
Shout out Jay Herrick, the actor who plays the gas station owner. He's only in the 2 scenes, but he fucking just smashes them both. And honestly, we did, like I said, we got the bit of Dennis there talking about like he's hurt that the other guys took his shirts off. That's right. I don't know if there's 5 times in the entire series we've seen Dennis actually like emotionally hurt in that kind of, that he's not angry, but actually like, like just kind of
bummed out.
Yeah, like this is one of the few like he legit, and it's just because the other guys took their shirt off.
Can I bring something up? Because if I don't, it's going to stew up inside me. It's going to drive me crazy.
What's up, man?
I kind of can't believe that you guys took your shirts off back there.
Just shows you kind of where his whatnot is, and then we get a nice callback later when we find out that Frank guesses that Dee just hit her life savings in her sock drawer.
You gotta love Mac with, she's an investor now. She'll thank us later.
It's always funnier, especially when you remember that Mac and Dee in real life got married right around this time. So that always helps to remember in the context of this episode. They actually got, I think, married like a week or 2 after this came out. And like Charlie doing his wild card thing, he tells the the owner like, "So help me God, I'll blow this place to kingdom come, guy." And then Mac's like, no, not like that, Charlie. Not like that. Jesus Christ, Charlie, come on, man. And for the record, back in 2008, for what I can read on the joint, looked like the gas was $3.83 basically, so not super cheap. And they'd already pumped out $983 worth of gas. So, we know Dee had probably about $1,000 in life savings, I'd say.
That's not nothing for Dee. That's like, I'm actually pretty proud of Dee. That's actually kind of a lot for her. So
yeah, she might even ask later in the episode where they got the money for this gas. And of course, after the gas station owner tells them that they can only transport the gas by car, they have no choice, right? So they decide that they're going to transport the gas by they're going to fill up the Range Rover, bring it back to the alley behind Patty's, have Charlie siphon the gas out, repeat. They keep doing this for a while, but then they figure out that they're losing money on this, and the guy keeps raising the price. Every time they go there, they put another number on the thing. They're losing gas to drive back and forth, and Charlie has swallowed a good deal of it as well. The plan isn't working, and they need some short-term cash.
You gotta love Charlie here. I mean, just the way he's ciphering it and these barrels are filled to the brim, bro. They're not like, this is full of liquid.
They couldn't
you
even
gotta
cap
love Charlie.
them, probably. I don't even know how they're going to cap it without overflowing it.
Oh man, and Charlie's swallowing. It's a goddamn waste. It's just great,
dude. That's just the way that they do this is one of the best parts about this series as a whole. This is mostly a plot thing, right? They're trying to explain what they're going to do with the gas next, and it's hysterical. For most shows, this would be kind of like a boring thing where they're like, oh, well, now we have this gas and we're going to have to do something with it, sweetie. Well, I don't know what we're going to do with it, so we're going to have to find a different way to do something with it. Well, I know you said the word do a couple times, so I'm going to say do a couple more times until randomly someone walks in the door and gives us a way out of this plot. Now here, they just bullshit, and it's fun, and we get the idea, right? Like, oh, they've already realized, like, yeah, we're going to have to pivot the business a little bit, and we do get other instances of pivoting the business later on in the series. The short-term thing, great, but honestly, Charlie Day is the fucking star here. with, like you said, the siphoning thing, with the line where he puts the new thing on the sign every time they go there. Although Dennis did have a good one with, when Mac's like, yeah, it's not good. And then it's like, yeah, gas has gone up 7 cents since this morning. That does feel very relatable.
I tell you what, this has come full circle. That is why we're doing this episode. On top of it being an incredible episode, we decided to do it because we really need the gang to solve the gas crisis for us here.
Yeah, if they break the $5,
really going through
they
it.
break the $5 Hyman there, it's going to go up 7 cents like per shift.
Oh, we'll be at $5.99, within a couple weeks max. From there, we see the guys. Well, they try returning some of that gasoline to the gas station that they've already purchased, but no dice, baby. No dice. And again, to your point earlier, the gas station owner is great. He doesn't have, I think he says one word, but in both, but fantastic work by him here. Really played this part well. I love that they go back to the same gas station to return gas.
Well, you have to, right? Because they have the receipts. That's
well, and it's receipts. Like, but who has anybody ever returned? Just the concept alone cracks me up. Like,
would you again, the same way you would measure gas, like how would you return gas? Again, a couple of good minor joints here. You get the Mac hardball line.
You want to play hardball? Fine. You're about to experience the hard knocks of a free market, bitch. Get ready to feel it where it hurts.
Your dick.
No, not his dick. His wallet. Yeah. Your wallet. Yeah.
Dude, this had me dying, man, because I had a feeling he was going with the wallet, and then because you want to play hardball, and then Charlie with your dick. I mean, it was just so perfectly timed. I laughed very hard. Great little scene here.
You can't do it or you won't do it.
Both.
Oh, well, because when the dude says both, Dennis kind of gives Charlie a look, and Charlie pulls out the lighter again.
Yeah.
And then Mac just real softly. If you don't have closed captioning on, you might not even notice. Mac's like,
not yet, buddy.
So fucking perfect. That brings us back to Dee and Frank. They got to figure out what they're going to do next. So they break into the apartment that they think belongs to Bruce Mathis, but really just belongs to the dude that they're harassing. And they plant box cutters, a bag of fertilizer, and a baby monitor, which they'll use as a bug.
You're planting a baby monitor?
Yeah. A lot of people are bugging their babies these days.
The plan is to call the cops on him and get him caught with all this bomb-making shit. Frank is worried that they'll find his bug, and he's mad at Dee because she won't deny that she was going to kill him and Dennis to get his inheritance money.
Were you planning on offing me and then offing Dennis also?
How good is Frank here with this baby monitor situation? This is a t-shirt. There is t-shirt meme one-liners here that are just hilarious with this baby monitor situation.
I mean, you have the front, right? I mean, the front's pretty easy. A lot of people are bugging their babies these days, and on the back you have, I guess, babies can't be trusted.
Has to be, and then
I mean, Bruce is not banging any baby dudes can also probably be on a t-shirt.
Like maybe Bruce is banging dudes.
Why would that be shady?
Maybe the dudes are babies.
What? Bruce is not banging any baby dudes.
It's just, man, Frank and Dee is kind of a under. You don't really give them enough credit oftentimes. They're a great pair. I think they're underrated a bit here when they pair up on missions. I mean, they're really nail this one.
Yeah, that'd be kind of fun thing to do, is rate like the most dynamic duos probably, because that's something the show does so well, is keep kind of making these random pair offs. In here, you have to, like, they do such a good job, because not only does Dee shit on the idea of the baby monitor as a bug, she continues to deny that she's going to waterboard him. And at the end of the scene, you see the look on Frank's face, and like the fact that Dee just keeps denying that she was planning on killing Frank and Dennis. Like, we all know. And just that look DeVito gives at the end, like, you don't know that it's necessarily going to be waterboarding, but like,
something's coming.
Like, yeah, Dee fucked up.
Determined to stick it to the gas station owner, the guys set up a gas station stand in front of his gas station. Of course, they're charging more than him, and they have no idea how to measure the amount of gas that they'll be selling. But hey,
Let me just stop you right there. How exactly are you planning on counting a liquid?
I know how to count, dude.
They begin blowing fireballs in an effort to attract attention, and Charlie ends up burning Mac's head and hair. Mac made a point of saying he's the brains here. His idea was we start launching fireballs into traffic so it draws them to our stand.
One of my favorite things is just how impressed Dennis was with first Mac's fireball and then Charlie's. Like, he even keeps Charlie in the wild card slot later on because he's still just so impressed by that fucking fireball.
Well, yes. In the next, next scene, I don't want to spoil it, but Charlie's like, you were kind of in the way. I mean, this when Charlie blows his hit directly into Mac's face. It's not even, he didn't try to move, he didn't wave him off, he just directly blows it into his face.
Yeah, dude, it's a thing, man.
And you gotta hand it to Charlie. How was he gonna count? I mean, I know he knows how to count, dude, but like, he really believed he could do this.
I mean, that stupid confidence is what lets him do like Charlie work or whatever, right? Like, he believes it. It's like, if you see it, you can make it happen, kind of that whole thing.
That's how he caught a leprechaun, man. I mean,
we did see it, and Charlie did, I think, initially make the price list here for the gas, and we have unleaded spelled UNLED''D, and that's for $4.99 and 9/10 cents. We have premium spelled PREIEM, that's $4.85 and 4/5 cents. And then we have diesel spelled DEASEL, like weasel, $4.80 and 8/16 cents.
Love that. There's so much going on here. Diesel is the least expensive, which is hilarious.
Right, it's backwards. Unleaded, just regular unleaded is the most expensive. Followed by premium, and then diesel is the cheapest.
It's so funny. And it's so their whole point was they're going to hit him where it hurts, not his dick, his wallet. And they're selling it for more.
Out of can. They're just going to pour it. They don't even, obviously they have to get it from the barrels to the funnel in the thing. So just imagine some dude like with a bucket of gas trying to dump it into a funnel that's jammed into your gas joint in your car. They're just going to be dumping
all over the side of the car. It's just, and again, they can't tell how it's not the best plan here, but they're knee deep.
Credit to Dennis. He did correctly note before Mac first did it that they should not be blowing fireballs around the 10 containers of gasoline. So he had the right thing, but as soon as Mac did the first one, he was impressed enough to
it was pretty impressive, though. I mean, I gotta hand it to Mac. Like, he actually pulled that off. I mean, it would have garnered some attention one way or the other.
Usually if you kind of look in the background, you can see guys in cars looking at them. But again, why would you pay an extra $1 for gas to go to the guys? It's so good. It's just so good. And we have to go back to Charlie's apartment because they have to fix Mac's head. So they bandage it up with some duct tape and a towel. And it looks, about as good as you think it would. Dennis declares that it's time for a new plan. He'll be both the brains and the looks, while Charlie will remain the wild card. And Mac will be the muscle. They're going to steal Frank's rape van, and they'll sell their gasoline door to door. Charlie decides this is a great idea, but as the wild card, he's going to need a disguise for this.
You're not letting the wild card do his thing.
Is there any reason behind what you're doing?
Wild card.
Really funny and they kind of set it up a little bit with Frank thinking that Bruce was working with the Taliban and the terrorists, right? And so they set it up with this garment that would look like maybe somebody in the Middle East would wear, right, or something like that. And so they set it up. Of course, it's incredibly racist and wrong, and that's the gang all the time pushing the limit with that stuff. But I like how they came back. They planted the seed with Frank, and then they kind of made this happen here, and it was a great reason. And it was kind of easy. They didn't have to create any huge scars or anything. If you look, I think Max just got one little red spot near his eye, and that's really it.
Yeah, just again, duct tape, bath towel to your head generally does most of the work for you as far as the comedy there. You get a couple good lines here when Charlie does a classic Charlie.
I think we got to stick to the paradigm that we've set up. I mean, 18.
No. Your paragon is failing us, man.
Yeah, it's a paradigm, but it wasn't working. See,
it's not working.
And then just one of the great ones when Charlie's going to go for the costume. Dennis asks, "Is there any reason behind what you're doing?" And Charlie just replies, "Wild card."
Hey man, you got to let him do his wild card thing, dude.
That's really the main problem. I think, like, they talk about rules. The main problem is they never let Charlie go full wild card.
With the baby monitor bug in place, Dee and Frank continue to surveil the random dude who they think is Bruce Mathis. Dee accidentally speaks into the baby monitor.
I mean, how has he been sitting there watching golf for 3 hours?
Is that a baby monitor?
Oh, I got it.
Frank has had enough and he exits the van, and we see Mac, Dennis, and Charlie waiting across the street in the Range Rover, which is a finisher. Dee follows Frank out of the van, and Mac runs over and hops in the van. Frank sees him, but thinks it's a Muslim guy due to Mac's towel bandage. Mac also has some trouble with the gas pedal, and he hits the random guy's car 3 more times.
Dude, it's just a regular Honda, and he loves that car, man.
Literally means everything to him.
Dude, Knighton is just so fucking great here. And again, they even do it the way they shoot it. It's obvious, like, one of the times, like, the van's just ramming the car. This really couldn't be happening accidentally at this point. But it doesn't.
Yeah, because you're doing a 3-point turn. How are you? You can't get it the third time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty minor scene for the most part. We do see Frank calls Dee a bad hider. I thought it was going to be a hide and go seek joke, but it was actually that he knows that she hides her fucking money in her sock drawer. So that was a nice kind of bring it back around deal there. And when Dee talks into the thing, the guy's like, "Is that a baby monitor?"
Yeah.
And they struggle to shut it off. I don't know why. That shouldn't be that funny to me.
It's
it
so
breaks
funny,
me
dude.
every time because the way he just, it's like, because imagine if you're just in your house, single dude chilling, so there's a baby monitor. I mean, I don't. It's just conceptually so funny for me, especially because nothing comes of like the box cutters and the fertilizer. Like, imagine that too. You're just in your living room when they come in your closet, like, huh? I don't remember that bag of fertilizer being there.
Yeah.
And how did they ever think it was Bruce's apartment anyways? I mean, no,
it's so great. Well, that you would know as soon as you went in there, like, this isn't Bruce Mathis.
Yeah, look, they even show his DVD collection, which would definitely not be Bruce's DVD collection.
Bro, it's so funny because the way it's shot, you're watching Dee and Frank, and then all of a sudden you just hear the dude through the monitor.
I don't know why. That just breaks me every time.
No, it was a serious highlight, dude. I absolutely loved it. And the important thing here is we see Frank kind of putting 2 and 2 together and really starting to believe this thing with the fact that he knew Dee was trying to kill him, I think really got in his head here. And he's had enough. He thinks he set her up with the baby monitor thing. Like, that was like Dee did that on purpose.
Yeah, he's at least like, all right, there might be some fire to go with this smoke here. And so we see after they steal the van, Mac, Dennis, and Charlie, they load the gas in it, and they're literally attempting to sell it door to door. Charlie has put on his disguise. He's dressed up like a Texan, although his accent could probably use a little bit of work.
We're just a couple old men in from Dallas, and well, we're itching like a hound to give you something you want.
They only make it to one house that we see pretty quickly. Charlie's Texan character goes over the top, and they have to hightail it back to Patty's before Johnny Law shows up. And I mean,
Dude,
how many fill you up jokes can you get from Charlie Day here? Because he just is full of just the double entendre.
Associate is trying to say is that we're here to offer your community a much needed service.
Hells yeah, we want to fill you up, if you were so inclined as to let us.
Yeah, dude. And this is one of my favorite all-time things is my basic idea of whenever I do a Southern impression, especially of a Southern lawyer, it winds up being like, I say, that's just damn preposterous, boy. And, Dennis is like, well, now you're just talking like Foghorn Leghorn. I am told far too often that now I'm just talking like Foghorn Leghorn.
Yes, you are. It's happened multiple times throughout our journey on all things podcasting and Joe Blow football showing. But Charlie's accent is absurdly good. His outfit, everything works so
How does he have that outfit in a bolo time?
Yeah. Dude, his apartment's trash.
Disguises. He has no food, but
He's got nothing, but he has a closet full of disguises. He doesn't even have a working bathroom, but he's got that disguise. But one thing that's so subtle that I absolutely love is the woman. And Dennis is trying to play it cool, like, you look like a very busy young lady, and very busy, very beautiful young lady. It will be quick. It's so she just has the facial expressions each step of the way. And then, you know, when Charlie basically points to Mac and the thing.
We ain't gonna take no for an answer now, you hear, okay? So don't be making me sick my associate on you here, all right? He don't take kindly to no. So, can I fill you up or what?
You don't let me fill you up, you're gonna deal with it. It's just so great, dude.
Yeah, you get the idea Dennis might have pulled it off, right? Or at least it kind of comes back with the idea when like Frank pimps Dennis out and everything. It fits with that vibe. I think he might have had a chance on his own. Although again, they're even delivering it door to door. They're still gonna rob him to sell the gas for less than they got it for. And they're driving it to get there. So there are a lot of problems with the business model here. Maybe they need to get Rex involved. It just you know, I know Charlie's accent will say enough about it, but the way he says oilman is just, it's like oilman, like it, I can't.
Man.
It's like Earlman. It's not but Earl, but it's so.
It's almost like almond, but like
Allman.
It's so great, dude.
Texas Allman over here, you know. It's
There's
so
a couple of man from Texas. He's just the greatest. Dude.
I don't know why. I know it's deliberately terrible, and it's just fucking awesome. And even the little exchange where Dennis is finally like, all right, dude, let me do the talking.
Please.
And Charlie's like, got this.
Because Dennis, he had her, he was kind of moving along, and then he realized he was losing her. And Charlie's ultimate wild card. Well, he's getting towards his ultimate, but this is just as good as it gets for me with Charlie's wild card. Again, star of the show for me.
Yeah, it's probably not the most interesting podcast to hear two dudes like, that's so funny. But if you have watched this recently, it's almost fun just to relive it and laugh again. Because, dude, this is top tier. To quote Ruth Langmore, high level shit right here, dude. This is Sonny firing at peak potential, and it's just best. And I like when they go back to like, when Max like, all right, we have to go back to the original plan. Charles like, all right, yeah, well, we're gonna put gas in the generator. Like, you're just gonna use all the barrels to feed the generator right back to where they started, which would, you know, be about par for the course for Sonny.
You are not wrong, my friend. Fantastic scene here. We then go back to Patty's, and we see Frank is viciously waterboarding Dee in a urinal.
Don't lie to me. Come on, admit it.
I admit.
What do you admit?
I admit anything you want to hear.
Now you admit that Bruce Mathis is a terrorist.
He's a terrorist.
And that you are working for him.
Yes, I work for him. We get our information from the top.
When Dennis walks in and tells Frank that they stole his van, Mac and Charlie wander in, and Mac has an epiphany.
I'm the brains, you're the looks, Charlie's the wild card, and Frank is the muscle. Well, what's D? She's the useless chick.
First of all, this is a brutal torture scene, which is just wild. But when Dennis walks in, he's like, what's going on here, Frank? I like where this is going. Like,
well, D just threatened to kill him, right? Like,
yeah,
he just found out D was going to kill him, so of course he's not.
But even if he didn't find that out, I think he still would have probably had the same reaction.
Well, his reaction is he continues to unzip and he pees, like he does do the
right next to her head.
No urinal etiquette. He skips one. He skips the middle urinal, so he does observe urinal etiquette. But yeah, and then he just pees in the next one. And then when Mac and Charlie come in, he's just peeing. That's all good. We don't ever see anyone wash their hands, but you know. And then we get to kind of the final punchline, so to speak, for the torture waterboarding storyline when Frank is trying to get Dee to admit shit, and he's like, "What do you admit?" And he's like, "I admit to anything you want to hear." And then later on, we hear Frank say, "Yeah, I got Dee to admit to things she never did." Yeah, that pretty much pays off the waterboarding thing. It was more topical at the time, but they are right that information gained under torture generally is not terribly reliable.
No, people say whatever. Mills, what do you think the top cave is? Where's Dee get her information straight from the top?
Like Osama bin Laden, remember? Because he was hiding in the caves at the time and everything. So I'm assuming that's
another callback there.
She's trying to be a Muslim, admit to being a Muslim terrorist or whatever. So I
Yes.
think that's what she's going for. Is this is back when Osama was hiding in the caves again, over 14 years ago as we're recording this, basically.
Yeah,
From the
very
time they
cool.
filmed it,
Nice
probably
callback.
more than 14 years ago. So pretty wild. And I mean, Frank does get the one good line against D when Dennis asks what he do. He's,
I like what I'm seeing here, Frank. Bring me up to speed.
I'm waterboarding your sister because she's escalating the plot to kill us.
Yes, help me!
But that also gives Mac the epiphany that Frank is the muscle, because that's the important part, right? Mac realizes the reason shit hasn't been working out for them is because they're not working with their full crew. He's the brains, Dennis is the looks, Charlie's the wild card, Frank's the muscle, and D, oh, she's the useless chick. And this is funny on multiple levels because A, it's a little bit meta with the cast talking about how some people complain when they're all not like working together and everything, how those aren't as good as episodes. And B, that, you got Rob McElhenney calling his wife, or, just about to be wife at that time, they'd been dating for a long time, a useless chick. And it's funnier every time you imagine from about season 3 forward, every time Mac is ripping on D, it's a dude ripping on his, wife, basically.
Fiance at that point. I mean, that adds a little something to it, and very cool stuff. Thank you for pointing that out, Mills. That's what you get here on the Night Pod Comics.
Yeah, and the end line where Mac says, Frank, does the waterboarding really work?
Does that waterboard really work?
Oh, you bet your ass. I got Dee to admit the things she never did.
That tells you all you need to know, right? The idea being here, what they're, saying into context is like, yeah, you just torture people and we'll say whatever you want. We'll give you justification to do whatever you want. Again, a little bit more of a 2008 storyline, but yeah, torture is bad.
And still, and look, still relevant.
There's no good that will come of torture.
No.
D getting waterboarded, absolutely terrible. But the fact that she had basically threatened to kill most of the people in this episode prior does make it just a touch more palatable. And then finally, we come to the last scene of the episode, and boy, this is like, if Scooby-Doo ever took crack and got in the mystery machine, this is what it might look like. The entire gang piles into the van. The barrels of gas are still in there. They're too heavy. They've lifted them 1,000,000 times. Dennis isn't dealing with it. The new plan is to kidnap Bruce and bring him back to the bar. Once there, Frank will waterboard a confession out of him. Dennis will bring the confession to the police, and he'll use his charm and good looks to get the reward money. Dee will continue to be useless, and Mac and Charlie will use the money to pay off their electric bill and to buy more gasoline, because Mac thinks that's still going to work out. But it turns out that in his role of wild card, Charlie has cut the brakes and he bails out of the back of the van.
Wild card, bitches! Yeah!
What?
With no other choice, the rest of the gang bails out as well. The van rams into the random guy's car and causes a massive explosion. The gang looks on while the guy wonders why somebody's trying to ruin his life. They finally realize that, oh, it's not Bruce. And they once again hightail it the fuck out of there.
And just the fact that as they kind of come around and see the explosion, D still has the running makeup from just being waterboarded. I mean, it's the little things. And boy, do they do it great.
Oh, dude, it's so everything. And the fact that I still remember the first time I saw this, when they're in the van and they start to play the Ghostbusters song, I just remember being like, this is going nowhere good. And like in the best way possible. Just, you know how hard it is to actually, they say Ghostbusters in the song. You know how hard that is to use in a different context? In the way they set that up here to actually pay it off. And just from a writing standpoint, if any y'all like writer, try to figure out a good way to kind of organically use the Ghostbusters theme. I dare you. It's not nearly as easy as you think. I don't know if this was maybe a happy accident when they were doing the writing and they just brought up Ghostbusters and it all worked in, or if this is something they built it around. And this also cost them a couple bucks this is when they just first started spending a little bit of money on, music licensing and whatnot. So I knew as soon as we got that, I'm like, oh, something's going to happen in this scene.
Great way to use it. I thought it worked
classic.
perfect.
This is one of the classic memes that have come out of Sunny. Is the wild card bitches, right? I mean, this is one of the the idea of Charlie saying wild card bitches and then jumping out the back door is just, I mean, it's a classic. You can't really say it any other way.
You can't. And a couple of little things here. We've talked about them all episode, but just the way Zachary Knighton it's just so good, dude. As the random dude, he just, he's calmly eating a bowl of Cheetos, watching golf, sitting in his chair. It's just so good, man. I love it. And he has the jump perfectly as the collision hits and the explosion happens. He spills his Cheetos all over the place. He's fantastic.
See, I don't want to get too deep into Barry or something, but it's almost like someone has been, waging psychological warfare on him. He's just chilling out doing his thing. People are ramming his car. They're planning shit in his apartment. He's hearing voices. You kind of get it, right? And he just plays it so innocently, and it's perfect, right? Because that's a gang, right? Like there's always kind of an innocent victim. And this guy's like, dude, I love I just want to have a cool Honda Accord in the spot. I probably pay $250 a month for it to park on the street and watch fucking golf and eat shit out of a bowl. Dude is not looking for a complicated life here. And I feel like, he gets a little ripped off. I might be a little bit partial because I watched Happy Endings. Zachary Knighton played Dave on that. Fantastic show. I don't even know where it's streaming now, but if you can find it, never seen it. Happy Endings. It's a fun one.
We'll definitely check that out. You got to love we talked about Charlie jumping out, but he doesn't just roll. He doesn't just say, he full on head first leaps out. I mean, awesome.
Yeah, scene. It's an obvious old school green screen thing. It doesn't even really matter because Charlie Day just goes so over the top with it. I just wish that it had been filmed in HD. Even kind of the upscaling doesn't work as good as it could, because I'd love to have a better quality version of that GIF, basically, or GIF, I guess, whatever. Shout out both sides of the pronunciation argument. And I love the throwaway line of D asking,
"Where'd you get the money for this gas?"
D, will you shut up and let me continue?
Where did they get the money for that?
Great shit, Magnum Mills. And that's the gang solves the gas crisis. And I got to say, fantastic episode.
And for the record, I did a little bit of research, and this is basically tied for 14th overall as far as Sunny episodes on IMDb. That's pretty good, right? We've done a fair amount of episodes here. T14's pretty high. And I was thinking about it. This is a pretty great episode. If somebody had never seen Sunny and they didn't want to start with episode 1 of season 1, this would be a pretty good episode to get them in, right? Because it jumps you in pretty quick. You get a good idea of who the gang is, what they do, what the group dynamics are. It's fun. It leaves room for other stuff. It kind of shows you what stuff could be. You get some stuff in Patty's, some stuff outside. You think this would be you want to give away that first fix for free. If it's a gateway drug, you're trying to get someone hooked on Sunny. If you're going to give them a free sample, is this a free sample you'd give them?
I think it's definitely in the top 5 for sure. Rewatching this a couple of times, it's so good. It's funny. It's absolutely hilarious. You get great character development, kind of seeing them in their roles. They even assign the roles, right, of brains and muscle. And again, to your point, inside the bar, outside the bar, there's a little bit of action, right, with the explosion scene. There's great dialogue. This is a fantastic episode for somebody who's never watched it before. And you realize oh man, each episode's a new adventure. I don't really have to, I can just jump in and out of this thing a little bit. And you could go all the way through, you could jump in and out. That's the amazing thing about Sunny.
That's like you say, your duty to please that booty. If you really do enjoy Sunny, you want to try to pass it on. And sometimes it is a little tough to say, all right, from a completionist standpoint, say, sure, start at episode 1 of season 1. But I think being able to offer people an episode like this and say, all right, jump around a little bit. Yes, it is a little bit serialized. It's a few things happen, but for the most part, you can jump around. So you could totally start on this episode for a show that's just kind of started out as a raunchy comedy on FX. This has come a long way, man. I mean, literally to being the longest running live action comedy in history. So pay respects.
Respects are due. Mills, let's have a little fun here, baby. Let's assign a role to each member of the gang. And if you had to do it here, tell us what it would be. I'll give mine first. Mills, for Dennis, I'm making him the devil. Ooh. For Mac, he's got to be the security, 100%. For Frank, he's the money man. That's plain and simple. He's the checkbook. He's the man with the cash. Charlie, well, he's the human disposal. He can literally he could just take in any fluid. Sometimes he drinks paint. The guy can eat anything. He literally is the human disposal. And Dee, well, she's a bird.
It's funny how close we are in some of these. I have Dennis as the hair. Yeah, it's kind of like, the look or whatever, but he's always been so kind of vain about his hair and everything. I have Mac as the herald, because remember, Mac's always the one who comes in hot with news. So I feel like he's always the one who kind of like incites a lot of the gang's adventures. I have Dee as air support, because Dee is a bird, need air support. And I have Frank as, you could call it either the bank or the wallet. Same kind of thing there. And Charlie's the heart. Charlie is the heart of the, maybe the canary if you want to put it in boys' terms, but I think Charlie is the heart of the gang.
Love it, Magnum Mills. That was fantastic. Anything else before it's trophy time? We give out some hardware here.
I mean, sometimes we do the fun thing where we do alternate titles. I mean, The Gang Solves the Gas Crisis is like pretty fucking great. One I had that I thought would have been fun is if you just seen it was Frank Waterboards Dee. You have anything for me?
That's a great one, Mills. My top choice was going to be from Texas. Just literally oil from Texas. And I thought that would be intriguing and interesting. Like, what the hell is that all about? Like, do they go to Texas? What happens? I thought that would be kind of fun.
Yeah, I can't lie. I can't come up with a better, like, the gang does X line. I would say I also like the wild card. Frank buys a van and Charlie fills you up.
Charlie fills you up would be fantastic. The gang finds themselves, I thought would be cool too, a little bit vague as they try to figure out kind of who does what. That was up there for me.
I know my first one, Frank Waterboards Dee, because it does happen and it would kind of draw your attention or whatever.
Yes. So it's a great name change. And that brings us to the time where we are going to hand out the hardware, baby. Let's start with our favorite quote or piece of dialogue from The Gang Solves the Gas Crisis. Oh man, there's so many good ones to choose from here, Mills. I mean, this is just gotta give it to Frank with,
"You're planting a baby monitor?"
Yeah. A lot of people are bugging their babies these days. I guess babies can't be trusted.
It's so funny, dude. And it leads to the other hilarious moment where the random dude's like, "Is that a baby monitor?" Which was almost a runner-up for me. It was that funny.
I have to go with the scene in the alley when you get the exchange between Dennis, Mac, and Charlie after Charlie gets done spitting out the gas and Dennis realizes that they're actually losing money driving back and forth from the gas station.
No. Guys, this is not working, okay? We're actually losing money driving back and forth from that gas station all day long.
You burn up your product. Plus, I have swallowed a good deal of it, and it's just a damn waste.
Yeah, and gas has gone up 7 cents since this morning.
He puts a new thing on the sign every time we pull in there.
We're screwing ourselves here, guys.
Hold on, let's not freak out. Let's not freak.
I'm going to call it a dialogue exchange. Loved every part of it. That brings us to our favorite scene or moment of the episode. I suppose that makes me go first here. There's a couple of them, but I think I'm going to just have to go with the scene where Frank gets out of the van, Dee follows, Mac jumps in, gets in the van, and starts fucking ramming the car, and then you see the guy's window like, what the fuck, man? It was so random and excessive. Like, just, originally Dee had a car parked behind her. They were parallel parked. There's no reason for Mac to hit that car that many times. He just keeps ramming into it. It's kind of like the comedy rule of threes there. He hits it 3 times. And I know there's other better scenes in that episode. But again, every time I see that, just the way it's set to the music and everything, and it just smashing the van into the car, I laugh hysterically. Jamie G, give me a good one for this joint.
Great scene. I am so tempted to go with the scene where Charlie introduces the Texas accent. That is just as good as it gets for me, but I'm not going to, because upon watching this and then rewatching it and rewatching it and rewatching it, I've got to give it to the scene in the bank. There's so much hilarity to this where they're trying to apply for the loan and they're struggling with the plan A. They go to plan B, which is the chart. We see the chart fully completed that Dennis made. Absolutely hilarious, but it doesn't work on a woman. Like they actually thought it would, and then they go for the seduction with Dennis, and it ends up being, the Charlie's first wild card stint, where all three, just so funny to me, dude. So much little stuff in there that breaks me every time I watch it. I literally was cracking up earlier today watching that, and it's my favorite scene.
I cannot argue with that again. Just so many good Johnskis in this one. It's really hard to argue with it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, look, anyone we gave, I have a feeling it would have been like, yeah, I can make a case for it. And so with that said, it is now time for us to find out who our 5-star man or woman is. This is where we rank the members of the gang from 1 to 5 stars, first being the worst and 5 being that 5-star man, the best for the gang solves the gas crisis. I'm going to kick us off here, Magnum Mills, and my 1-star man is Random Guy. Look, he was fantastic, so good. He worked his way onto this list, but man, oh man, he had a tough episode. The poor guy just wants to watch golf, eat his snacks, and chill out in his chair, and he freaking loves that Honda. He didn't deserve any of that, man. Who is trying to ruin his life?
He deserves acknowledgement, I feel. He literally was just the subject of bad intel because Frank waterboarded some random guy. We never find out who, but he waterboarded a random person to get this poor intel. I love that. I went with D as my 1-star woman because she basically plotted to kill, Frank and Dennis. And yeah, she gets what's coming to her. I think that's pretty fair. Number 2, my 2-star man, I have to go with Mac because he tried to function as the brains. He failed as the brains, and then he got his head burned off and almost died when the brakes were cut. So not a great episode with Mac, but at least he wasn't actively trying to kill other members of the gang. Jamie G, 2-star.
Mills, cannot agree with you enough on that. And my list will be reflected to demonstrate how I feel about D and Mac. I am going with Mac as well as my 2-star man for the exact same reasons. He had a swing and a miss here. He really had control for a little bit as being brains, setting everything, all the plans and everything. And he kind of struck out on it. And he ended up with his head burned off from a gas ball to the face. I mean, he was kind of in the way there. I am going to hit you with my number 3. I have Dennis as my 3-star man. He was fantastic in this episode. He could never get the gang over the hump enough to claim the title of Brains, so I got to knock him a little bit there. But he was so funny throughout this episode. He was Dennis, what I love, but he didn't cross over to creepy Dennis. And I love what episodes when we get hilarious, funny Dennis, or just who he is, but not necessarily creepy Dennis. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think we get the best of Dennis here in this one.
I also have Dennis as my 3-star man. Same basic deal. I like that we got a little bit of, vulnerability from him when he was mad the other guys popped their shirts off because that's kind of his thing. And I would have liked to have maybe seen like a legitimate scene where he tried to seduce her, nothing out of taste or whatever, but just, let Dennis shoot his shot and get shot down, so to speak. But yeah, I loved it. He didn't do enough to get up into that. I know he wants to be a 5-star man, but he didn't do enough to get there. For me, my 4-star man has to be Frank. He does a pretty good job here. He's controlling shit pretty well. He makes one big mistake. He trusts D. That costs him his rape van. That gets his fucking bug blown. Not great, but for the most part, he does manage to successfully waterboard multiple people and draw other people back into his scheme.
Yes, he does. Look, man, I have Frank as my number 4 too. He's so good in this episode. And I love that we get Frank involved in a major plot line throughout. Sometimes Frank, you don't get him enough. And that's really where I start to have to put him as a 1 or 2. Here we get him. And dude, he's dealing with the fact that his ex-wife she gave away all his money to this guy. Of course he's waterboarding people, man. This is like his whole livelihood. I mean, he was A+ in this episode. A+. That didn't look like like the first rodeo with waterboarding people. And I don't know if it's just because Frank's height's so little, like he was so good at it, dude. He's like right there in her face. Like it just was fantastic.
I would say if a urinal dispensed water in that fashion, like the front of your jeans would, like, that wouldn't really work. So they need to probably get that urinal fixed. But yeah,
that's Charlie work. I mean,
no argument
like
there.
Charlie work.
Well, that's it, right? That's Charlie. He's my 5-star man, not only because he does the urinal work, but here I think he's the one who fully realizes his position, right? He spends a whole episode trying to figure out how to be the wild card. I mean, he goes to the bathroom and practices his faces early in the episode. He's
supervised
really
by Mac.
He's putting the work in. He's doing what you need to do. Just ask OG Ashley. You have to put the work in. Charlie's putting the work in here. He gets, I mean, again, one of the most classic moments in Sunny history when he kicks out that, wild card, bitches, and kicks out that back door and dives out. The first time you saw that, it was just fucking wild. I cannot explain to you. Just the first time seeing that, I knew something was going to happen, and then that happened, and it just reset my expectations for what a comedy show could do. And yeah.
Charlie is also my 5-star man for every single reason you just said. Plus, we get him doing the accent in the outfit. He's just fantastic throughout. Every scene he's in, he wins. And I think, multiple times we're like, yep, Charlie was the star of the scene. Charlie was the star of he was the star of this episode. Heart of the gang. I love him. He's my 5-star man.
No diggity, no doubt. And that brings us to the time of the episode where we have to get out our wallets and grade this thing in order to create a self-sustaining economy. We grade each episode on a scale of 0 to 100 Patty's bucks, with 100 being the absolute best. It's my turn to go first here, and I'm not even going to fuck around. 99 Patty's bucks. It's almost fucking perfect. I think the Dee and Frank plotline was a touch light, maybe, but look at it. We are damn near a decade and a half later, and this fucking thing stands up pretty well, despite the fact that maybe it's a little bit like outside of the modern political sensibilities, but it still works because they do acknowledge, like, oh yeah, women should be powerful, women should be managers of banks and shit like that. I think they do a great job of straddling the line between social commentary and also having some fun with it and doing comedy. Holds up extremely well, not just because we're in a gas crisis. Jamie G, give me your Patty's bucks for the gas crisis.
We're gonna be making it rain with Patty bucks because, brother, I am right there with you. I'm gonna go at just a smidge lower. I'm gonna go 98 Patty's bucks. It is fantastic. It's just so ridiculously good. This blew me away rewatching it. I remember it being great. I don't remember it being this great. So the fact that I can come back to it and have it hit like this, bro, so good. I'm knocking it only because maybe to really get all the humor of this, you got to remember what life was like in 2008, but you can't really even knock the show for that. It was relevant in 2008. We're just 14 years later. It's so good. I just, again, 98 Patty's bucks, drinks on me. Let's do the thing.
Yeah, it was just a wonderful.
It's damn near perfect.
Yeah, that's why it's a 99 for me. I'm not even sure. I think if you look at it in the Pantheon, I think it's a top tier. Like, this is a tier 1 Sunny episode for me. I'm not sure how many there are in that top tier, but that's pretty much there. And that's why, again, I would stand on the soapbox for it being like, if you want to get one of your friends into Sunny and you can only, like, they're over at your crib, they're willing to watch one episode, you could try this one. There's probably, 5 to 10 in there, I would say. It changes a little bit from time to time, just in, just out. But hey,
this has me wanting to rewatch season 4. Like, I'm going to rewatch all of season 4 specifically because we did this one episode. And that is the beauty of Sunny. And that's why we are legally obligated by law to never stop covering Always Sunny in Philadelphia right here on the Night Pod Cometh. Thank you guys so much for checking us out, commenting, liking, subscribing. We really appreciate all of it. We love doing these throwback episodes. And don't you worry, we'll be back with another one very, very soon. Mills, tell these wonderful people where they can find all of our fantastic content. Before you do that, peeps, let us know what episodes you want us to do. We'll do them right here on the Night Pod Cometh.
Yeah, we like kind of doing things in sequence. I mean, maybe after this, it would make sense to do The Gang Recycles the Trash, which is basically the replay they do with this one. That's a lot of fun. Or the 4th of July is coming up. We could do The Gang Cracks the Liberty Bell. That is a very divisive but somewhat interesting episode. I'm surprised how many people actually say that's one of their favorite episodes of Sunny. So, hey, let us know. You can find us at Nightpod Cometh on your favorite podcast app. You can find us at Nightpod Cometh on social media. And same thing, nightpodcometh@gmail.com to send us any feedback. We're from the Joe Blow Football Show, who you can find at joeblowfootballshow.com and on social media at Joe Blow Show. We are continuing to cover the 6th and final season of Better Call Saul on Saul Over Soon. Find us on your favorite podcast platform and on social media at Saul Over Soon. We just wrapped up the 4th and final season coverage of Ozark from Netflix on the Ozark podcast. Again, on your podcast joint and social media at Ozark Podcast. And if you're on Netflix, you might have noticed the 6th and final season of Peaky Blinders dropped. We've already covered that on PvP, a Peaky Blinders podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast app, and you can find us on social media at Peaky Podcast. We are just wrapping up the 3rd season coverage of Barry from HBO. I don't know if you watched this. You could catch up on it quickly. It's great. You should do it. Find us at Barry Podcast on social media, your favorite podcast platform. And we are covering The Boys from Amazon on Compound B, the show about the boys. Find us at your favorite podcast platform at Compound B and on social media at Compound B Pod. Thanks again for checking us out. This has been the Night Pod Cometh. I'm Magnum Mills. He's Jamie G. And thank you for being a fighter for the Night Pod Cometh.
Oh, what? This has been the Night Pod Cometh, presented by the Joe Blow Football Show. We are in no way associated with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, 3 Arts Entertainment, RCG Productions, FXP, or FXX. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Any views or opinions expressed here are personal and do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations who may or may not be associated with the Joe Blow Football Show. If you have any questions, please contact us at nightpodcometh@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment.